What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today is day 6 of the 7th annual 10 Days of Pumpkin here on the channel. And the beer I'm reviewing today once again comes from the Drowned Lands Brewery, and they are out of Warwick, New York, and this is their Scythe, the 2024 release. So they're calling this one a Foeder-Fermented Pumpkin Ale that comes in at 5.7% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review. This can is approximately 2 months old, and I picked this one up at Halftime Beverage via halftimebeverage.com. So in the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies that I grabbed, and I picked up 20 different beers. 5 of those were pumpkin beers, and all of them I'm reviewing for this year's 10 Days of Pumpkin. And this might be the most unique sounding of the bunch because it is a Foeder-Fermented Pumpkin Ale, and they do use real pumpkin. They do ferment this one with real pumpkin, and the spices they're using are actually listed on the label here: nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, and ginger. And yeah, I'm curious to see what the Foeder will add to the beer. Probably a little bit of like oaky vanilla thing going on. We'll see. I don't know. I'm really curious about this one. I do like Drowned Lands beer, and when I saw this one on the Halftime website, I was like, it's go time. We got to grab this one. This has to be reviewed this year for the 10 Days of Pumpkin. So we're using the Bill Burr SNL skit glass from many years ago, the Samuel Adams Jack O, I think it was 2020 or 2021. Just a fantastic glass. So let's give it a pour. Oh, wow, that's much darker than I anticipated. Wow. I did not anticipate it to be that dark, honestly. It's looking beautiful. Something like that. We'll pour the rest in a bit later. So they do mention they're using a bunch of different malts in here to kind of represent and get a like a bready pie crust, which I think is pretty cool. But outside of that, just again, pumpkin and those 4 spices. So and obviously it's in a foeder. That looks fantastic. Now that looks like a rust color, like a deep rust color, a deep amber color, whatever you want to call it, but it definitely is a deeper, like again, amber color, I would say, rust, copper. Has about 2 fingers of a straight up, I would say that's more of like a tan colored head, for sure. And it has a little bit of creaminess to it, a little bit of soap sudsy look to it, not really going anywhere per se. Yeah, but I think it looks good. Again, in this glass, you're not going to see it as good as I am. Yeah, it has, I can see at the bottom here, I can see a little bit of like the shadow when I put my hand up, but up here, it's a little bit more opaque. But it looks beautiful. Good carbonation. Now, with this beer specifically, the fuck is this shit? For sure. Anyway, let's get a nose. Oh, wow. So this smells very reminiscent of yesterday's beer, which was Shipyard's Smash Pumpkin, but with the addition of an actual pie crust of some sort. And this is more of like a bready pie crust as opposed to a graham cracker. Yesterday's was just the pumpkin pie filling. This is actually the entire pie as a whole. Yeah, it's cinnamon, nutmeg is huge. A little bit of that clove and ginger. But this one's more, I'd say, nutmeg, then cinnamon, and then ginger and clove. But it has that again, caramelized brown sugar, caramel, toffee, kind of sweetness going on, which I really enjoy. And then an underlying bready pie crust. Like it does have like a nice, rich kind of bready quality to it. That's more of like a crusty, yeah, like a crusty pie crust. The foeder in the nose, really not picking up on any like vanilla or oak or anything. We'll see if that comes in the taste, but as far as the nose is concerned, this is pumpkin pie in a glass, for sure, 100%. Yeah, let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. That's fucking delicious. Yep. Whew. Oh, hang on now. That finish was a little different. Oh man, this is real good. This is real good. Now here is the thing. And I mentioned this yesterday, and I've already mentioned a couple times doing these reviews so far. Freshness matters when it comes to pumpkin ales. I know they matter a lot when it comes to hop-forward beers. You don't want to drink typically a 6-month-old, 7% IPA. You'd rather have it, 6 days old. Same thing with pumpkin ales. When they're 3, 4, 5 months old, like some of these are, because they're canned in, June and sometimes early July, the spices will fall off. So you get more of like the base malt character and the spices die off. So you're left with more of just like, caramelized sugars and maltiness. This you can tell is a little bit fresher. It's around 2 months old. This one I believe was canned back in like mid to late August. I think it was like the August 20 something. So you can tell because the spices pop on this way more than a couple of the other beers I've had so far that were 3.5 months old, 3 months old. This has a little bit more oomph to it right off the rip. Body on this one, medium, maybe a touch over, 5.7%, nice. Little slight watery kind of tinge on the finish though, just a bit. The mouthfeel is really nice too. This has a mild to moderate carbonation, more approaching moderate. Very smooth on the palate, but also there's a sense of creaminess that kind of coats the palate as well. So I really like the mouthfeel. The body's fine, but a little bit watery on the finish. The taste. Front to back, a lot of spices. This is definitely a spice bomb, but not in a negative way because there's not one spice that's over the top. I've had pumpkin beers in the past where like I've had a couple beers that were cinnamon bombs. There was like, I mentioned this in an earlier review this year, taking like a Fireball candy or a shot of Fireball whiskey and just pouring it into your beer. Like that type of intensity to the cinnamon flavor where it was just overbearing. I've had that happen once that I can recall with a ginger being just so dominant. It was an Ithaca beer. I forget the Ithaca pumpkin beer it was, but the ginger just tasted like someone just dumped a bunch of ginger into my beer. It was just too much of that one note. This doesn't have that problem. The spices are prominent. They're the predominant note on the palate, but they're also they're very balanced. They work in perfect harmony with one another. Not one of them is standing out. In order, I would probably go cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and clove in that order. And cinnamon and nutmeg's a little bit more prominent, but they're all noticeable and they're vibrant, but they're not overly done. And here's the kicker. The base beer holds up to all this spiced characteristic because it's a beautiful malty base that is just enjoyable. So yeah, forefront, I'm getting a big pop of like brown sugar and caramel and a little bit of like a toffee kind of feel. As it passes through, the pie crust kind of hits sides of the tongue onto the finish. Again, it's like a normal pie crust. It's not graham cracker-esque, it's just a pie crust. So this is encompassing the entire pumpkin pie as a whole, as opposed to just the filling or the crust or maybe the vanilla or the whipped cream you'd put on top. It has everything. In addition, it has a little bit of a vanilla tinge, so you're getting a little bit of a whipped cream kind of vibe too, because on the second half of the palate, it kind of morphs into that pumpkin pie as a whole, and I'm getting a touch of like an oak tannin that really lends itself to the dryness of the beer and a smidge of vanilla. I wouldn't say necessarily whipped cream on it, all right? I'll take that back. But there is a definite vanilla character, but it's just more subtle and nuanced than anything. The finish is beautiful because it's sweet for 3/4 of the palate, but on that finish, man, does this dry out. This is bone dry. It's a combination probably of the spices, maybe the foeder, but something here is really making this quite dry, and it's beautiful from that aspect. Really no bitterness. Like, I'm not really getting any bitterness. Maybe you could stretch it and say there's like a mild kind of bitterness to the beer as a whole. Not really picking up on any hop character specifically, but as a whole, this beer is pretty well balanced, but it definitely leans a little bit dry, I would say. Yeah, it's pumpkin pie in a glass, but it's not overly done. Like, this is more of a mild pumpkin pie in a glass. And that might sound weird to say, considering the fact that I just said the spices are predominant note and it's very spice driven. But again, it's spice driven in a beautiful way because nothing is dominating the rest of the spices. It's not too intense for one specific spice or even the spice as a whole. It's not like, even though it's predominant character, it's not pushing all the rest of the characters to the wayside or pushing them down and stomping on them. It's really working well with the malty goodness, the slight foeder kind of feel. 5.7%, can't really taste it. This is really well done. This is well done. Is it my favorite pumpkin beer of all time? It is not, but it's definitely in the running for my favorite beer so far through 6 days of the 10 Days of Pumpkin this year. So, rating. I'm trying to compare it in my head. How do I feel about this one compared to the Ithaca or the Ellicottville one? I still think the Ithaca or why did I say Ithaca? The Ellicottville one kind of blew me away and came out of left field. I'm going to give that one the slight edge to this one, but that is also a stout. So that's if you want like a pumpkin pie stout and had coffee and a whole bunch of other adjuncts in it. You know, spices, pumpkin, coffee, aged in whiskey barrels for 6+ months. This is just a Foeder-Fermented Pumpkin Ale, spices, real pumpkin. This is the best regular pumpkin beer or somewhat regular pumpkin beer I've had, but not as good as Ellicott Village, just right underneath it, but they're both delicious beers. So the Drowned Lands, their Scythe, the 2024 release, I'm going to give this a straight up 4.25 out of 5. This is delicious. I highly recommend you seek this one out because, man, this is pumpkin pie in a glass with, again, a nuanced kind of foeder influence, and I love the dryness. It's just not too sweet. This is not, this is not going to be cloying. I'm going to finish the rest of that glass and probably wish I had another, honestly. It's that good. So 4.25 out of 5. Great job, Drowned Lands. Price point and availability. I paid $5.99 at the aforementioned halftime beverage. I would have guessed, because I looked at their website. I tried to see if I could find this. I could not see a price point from their website or like any online store. I would hope this is no more than $20 4-pack. I do know if it showed up here, it'd probably be around $5.99 a can. A lot of Drowned Land stuff, $5, $6, $7, depending on the beer. But for $5.99, I'm not complaining. It is foeder aged or foeder fermented, and I'm fine with it. But I'd prefer maybe to pay more like $4 to $5 a can, but it is what it is. If you did grab this one, what did you pay for it? And the availability of the Drowned Lands, which I have no idea. I don't know if they have a beer finder on their website. I just know here in the Buffalo, New York area and the Western New York area as a whole, we do get drips and drabs of their stuff. Sometimes they, they might show up, and have a decent drop with like 3 or 4 beers, but then it'll be another 3 or 4 months before we see anything else from them. I have reviewed, I think, 1 beer from them on the channel. I've had maybe 3 or 4 as a whole, and I enjoy what they do. 2 things from them, though, I wish they dated their cans, because I have to look on Instagram or their website to see when they last released a beer, and I wish we got a little bit more distro from them to try their stuff out a bit fresher as well. So anyway, if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. A beautifully constructed Foeder-Fermented Pumpkin Ale, pumpkin pie in a glass, but not overbearing, very dry finish, 5.7%, you can't tell. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this. I'm not going to leave it on this side because it's not, what the fuck is this shit? It's more like, is today the day you're going to take a swing at your own band? No, but I'm definitely going to drink the rest of this beer. So again, if you've had this one before, please post in the comment section. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review and another 10 Days of Pumpkin review. Tomorrow, I believe it's the Burlington Beer Company's Pumpkin Spice Mochaccino. Weird beer. A lot of adjuncts in that one. Kind of crazy. I hope it's delicious. We will see. To the next one. Cheers.